If you're not measuring something objectively in order to get a result in any situation in your life, you're just fucking guessing.
Just guessing, yeah. And again, there's times and places for both objective and subjective measurements. But when you really want to dial things in, you really want to make progress and hold yourself accountable, you've got to use objective measurements. And there's heaps of them which we'll go through.
Yeah. Like a couple of things. So like what get measured get managed. This principle often gets applied to many, situations. It can be that simply examining an activity changes the activity by forcing you to pay attention to it. It's visual. It's in front of us. We know what we need to do, when we need to do it, we know how much we need to do it, and we can make changes to it. Again, it just takes the guessing out of it. It's a conversation that we have all the time because we are very objective.
Yeah.
We ask subjective questions to make sure people are feeling good, but at the same time, your objectivity must come first.
Not every day is perfect. You may miss one or two things, but yeah, the more data you can accumulate, the easier your training choices become.
Sort of the same with myself. Last year, trained, nothing necessarily specific, but this year my goal all year was to follow a specific training program all year, and the results I made in my strength already within the first sort of 6 weeks have been pretty big, especially when it comes down to your fitness or strength and hypertrophy. If you want to get better at anything, you must have a level of progressive overload to it.
Yeah.
You can't do it any other way, actually. It's not like, hey, this is our opinion. If you want to get stronger or you want to build more muscle, you must have some element of progressive overload, and that can come in so many different ways, but you must understand it needs it.
Yeah, and it must be tracked so it can actually quantify like whether you are progressing or otherwise you're just guessing.
Can't fathom a little bit some of the level of gyms around, like locally or in Brisbane, and this is not to badmouth these gyms at all, because some of them I've seen the programming and it's like such sharp, good programming. It's like really good programming, but the members don't measure anything.
Yeah, it's like
what are you doing?
It's just like putting glamming it up, trying to make it look as pretty as you can be, but it's never going to be as effective as it could be if people aren't tracking.
You have to track. You have to understand what you're doing, and it's not like every single week you're going to add progressive overload. You're going to add more to it because you can't. There's going to be weeks. I hit a week last week where I just couldn't anymore. Okay, and that might be time for a deload. You may have to have a look at something. You may need to change your reps. You may do lower again, like in terms of your overall volume, or lower in terms of the weight that you lifted. But next week you get back onto it and you just try and just beat what you did the week before. You don't have to then beat what you've ever done.